Hello and welcome to Old School Mysteries, a RuneScape history. The series where we dive deep into the lore and story of our favorite game of RuneScape to discover not only why we do the things we do within the game, but how we got there in the first place. So please, join me as we study the history of Gilenor and the characters that shaped it to be. The Empty Lord, the stranger from afar, the child of Ma. Zaros is one of the most powerful characters the player hears about in the story of RuneScape. But what did he do? What did he stand for? And what was his impact on the history of this world? Born, or rather created, from the elder god of Ma on the world of Freneske, Zaros was not like the other gods. Being created from an elder god, his power was immense. However, his desire to explore was larger. He wanted to scour the cosmos to discover all that he could. So in secret, and much to the displeasure of his companion Saren, he left the world of Freneske and his creator behind. While not much is known about his early travels before arriving on Gilenor, he did at one point settle on the world of Vampirium, the home of the vampires, where he was responsible for transitioning the native hunters of the world from their feral tendencies to that of civilized culture and society. This would become his moniker as the god of darkness and control. Once Zaros had found his way to the world of Gilenor, he saw the potential to build a vast empire, the size of which none of this world had ever seen. His ambition drove him to gain following amongst the many denizens of the world. Many mortals would devote themselves to the new Zarosian Empire with the promises of power and strength, as well as purpose within his ranks. He would also gain the allegiance of many of the demons and vampires who had made their way to Gilenor from far-off planets and worlds, promising them power as well as the ability to control lesser beings. Even after amassing an empire larger than any other in the history of Gilenor, Zaros was not satisfied. He looked south to the lands of the Caridian Desert and saw an opportunity to expand his influence and control over his new world. He would send forces into the land to do battle with the gods of Tumakin and Elidnis, who presided over the desert in what became known as the Caridian Wars. Desperate for additional forces, Icthalrin, the Caridian demigod of the afterlife, went searching to find soldiers for his cause. In an ironic twist of fate, he would enlist the help of a race of beings from Zaros' homeworld of Freneske, the Majorat, a race of powerfully magic beings with a semi-immortal lifespan. With newfound might, the Caridians were able to push back the Zarosians, but this would all change as the Majorat's loyalties were shifted to that of Zaros' control. Once one of their race had turned to Zaros' cause, many would abandon Icthalrin for the power promised by their new, truly godlike lord. In one last effort to protect his land, the god Tumakin sacrificed himself to destroy much of the Zarosian army. With this, the surviving forces left, and Zaros and his followers abandoned their march into the desert. For well over 2 millennia, the Empty Lord would rule over his empire, spanning from the furthest reaches of Ferenthri, today known as the Wilderness, all the way through the lands of Misthalin. Entirely organized through castes and titles, Zaros had full control over every individual and group within his domain. However, eventually some of his followers began to become unsatisfied with their positions in Zaros' grand vision. One of his faithful Majorat and most powerful general in his army, Zamorak, began to develop a scheme to rebel and usurp their lord. With the help of other Majorats such as Haziel and Zamorgel, the vampire lord Draken, the demon, Thamaron, and even humans like Vigora and Karim, Zamorak plotted to use the Staff of Armadil, an ancient elder artifact, to fight Zaros one-on-one. His allies would hold off Zaros' closest guards as Zamorak would deliver a blow to the back of the Empty Lord. Zaros would counter and drive the other end of the staff deep into Zamorak, causing a transfer of power between the two, resulting in Zaros losing his power. As Zaros began to fade from the world, he would bestow a curse on all who rebelled against him. one that would doom all who fought in this rebellion to wander the world of Gilenor as ghosts for all of eternity. With this, Zaros' empire would begin to fall, as without the guidance of their leader, the loyal Zarosians could not maintain the size nor the enemies of their lands. As pieces of the world were claimed up by other gods that remained on the planet, as well as the new god Zamarok, war would erupt as the world moved into the Third Age, the Age of the God Wars. Today, little remains of the forgotten empire. The capital city of Centestine is buried deep beneath modern-day Varrock, and the only known preserved site is that of the prison Gorok, deep in the north under the troll village of Weiss. As for his followers, many of the members of Zaros' vast following are still making moves to this day. Nex, one of Zaros' most powerful generals who was imprisoned by a forced alliance between 4 factions in the God Wars in order to contain her, has started to stir deep within the icy caves within Farinthri. The cursed rebels whose ghastly remains still wander the land of Gilenor, cursed to be there for all of eternity, still recall the day of their doom. And most importantly, the Majorat, his most loyal and most powerful group of followers, find themselves divided, some fully transitioning to the following and worship of their new god Zamarok, while others remaining still faithful to their empty lord, foretelling and waiting for his inevitable return. With little time before their next ritual, they have much to deal with in the world, especially with the most recent actions of their brother Sliske, but that is a story for a different day. Such is the story of the god Zaros, powerful, ambitious, and manipulative. His accolades have permanent impacts in every corner of this world, and yet very few even know his name. Perhaps there will come a time when the Majorat are rewarded for their loyalty, and perhaps this is not the end of the Forgotten Empire. But until then, thank you for listening.